The elections overall, there's going to be an impact from a real estate perspective on a lot of different fronts. One thing that's going on politically right now, and I'm going to let Sean talk about this a little bit, is the debate over whether or not the short sale tax forgiveness should be extended. And I know that there are Republicans and Democrats arguing either way. It's not necessarily a party issue. It's a what's the right move for our state issue and our real estate market. And it doesn't appear there's clear direction yet, right?
No, there's nothing clear on it yet. There was a lot of holdup, and we were waiting for the elections to happen before, I guess, Congress broke their stranglehold. A couple of times they tried to revive the Mortgage Debt Relief Act and get those those tax reliefs back in place. And then certain parties started pinning amendments to the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and there were
which is crazy to me that how this can somehow get attached to the Obamacare, like the Affordable Care Act. It's such a separate issue. It needs its own bill.
Well, exactly. If you look at it, it's never been its own bill. It's always been an attachment to another bill.
Right. Which is silly, and I think sometimes it's almost like the politicking from the right or the left bickering with each other about attempting to attach it to one bill, for silly reasons. It should be kind of its own bill. And for people that don't understand what it is, Sean, it's basically if someone short sells their property, there's some the differences in taxes. If you want to go over that a little bit, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, it applies to people that short sell their primary residence, and the loan is the loan that was originally used to buy the house or a loan that was used to make improvements to the house. So the law wouldn't apply to somebody that, let's say, refinanced the house to consolidate credit cards or pay off a car or something like that. The tax relief wouldn't apply. But if somebody short sells or there's a foreclosure on somebody's primary residence and the loan is the original loan, when the borrower gets the 1099, when the bank forgives the debt, that income tax that is excluded. There would be no income tax. A lot of people misunderstand and think the law says I'm not going to get the 1099.
You're still going to get the 10. It's like the 1099-C, right?
Correct.
It stands for cancelable, which I've read that before.
It's forgiveness of debt income. Yes.
So, and essentially, for someone out there that's done the short sale already, they're in limbo because they don't really know what's. I mean, as of right now, they're going to be taxed on it. But there's a chance that that something could pass that could go retro.
Correct. Everyone I've talked to thinks that it will eventually pass, and that when it does, it will be retroactive. But if we don't get something done by at least January, there's going to be people that start receiving 1099s
and they're waiting. They're holding. I'm not going to do my taxes until the last possible minute because I'm hoping and praying something happens.
Right. And there's a whole bunch of CPAs out there that are saying, and tax preparers out there that are saying, well, we don't know what to do either.
There's been a big push in the realtor community to let your congressman, your senator know. There's been links sent out by the National Association of Realtors Action Center that allow us to kind of, touch on things. And, part of me says, a lot of people say, oh, well, we're tired of these, kind of government giveaway type things. And so there's part of the population that doesn't like that people get off the hook in a sense for the short sale. However, if we did it a few years ago and there were a ton of them, extending it now to me is kind of minuscule, right? There's not. I mean, Robert, obviously Robert is the director of listing services at our company. So Robert oversees a lot of the listings that come through, the managing the listings, the home seller clients, and looking at the leads and how they come in. We're not getting a lot of short sales anymore.
No, nowhere near what we were getting a couple of years ago. It's
so,
pretty,
and I even saw it the other day. So I work with our web people to set up TampaBaySmokingDeals.com. We do it each week where we pick the best bargains in the marketplace. And used to be where I would click short sales and I'd look in certain zip codes and I'd look in certain price ranges for new listings to the market that were short sales, and there were just gobs of them. Now the other day I think there were, I looked in a price range, an area where there used to be hundreds of short sales, there were like 8. So there's not very many of them. So to me, the side of the fence that feels like, oh, these government giveaways or subsidies or whatever that, that Obama has been, labeled at providing, this doesn't apply the same way to me. It's not the same thing. It's really phantom money because in reality, and Sean, you can kind of speak to this, a lot of these people, even if they get the 1099, they don't have the money to pay it. So it's not, what are you going to collect from?
Exactly, and that's what I was thinking is that consider what we're talking about here. If you have somebody whose house is $100,000 upside down and they're in a 30% tax bracket to to make the math easy, we're talking about $30,000 in taxes.
That they don't have,
That they
because
don't
they
have.
would have paid their mortgage if they had them. So the problem is we're gonna have the federal government collecting on that. I mean, how are they gonna go after that? People are gonna file bankruptcy. They're gonna fight it. Like, it's almost like creating extra litigation, which lawyers love, Sean. Which you got, but in reality, it seems kind of fruitless. It seems kind of pointless to do it.
Exactly, and even bankruptcy does not
Cover.
normally discharge
Right.
tax obligations that are that new. And today, the short sales that I'm seeing are true hardships. We've gotten away from a lot of the strategic defaulters, and now we're getting back to those people that have divorces and death of a borrower and medical issues and loss of income. And
Which
those,
is what it was all supposed to be from the
Exactly.
beginning. And I think the interesting thing about what you explain is, so the point is that considering that's the case, those are the people that truly really need the help. I think people that don't support some of this kind of stuff are really doing it because they know their friend or they know a buddy or they know someone down the street that kind of cheated, And now they're like, oh, this guy that cheated is going to get a free pass. The banks now, because short sales aren't as prevalent, they have a lot more time to look at the notes, the hardship letters, all the documentation to really vet the person out. So you're not getting as many of the fakers, so to speak, as you are the real people.
yeah, it's very hard for me. I used to be able to creatively invent some true financial hardships. It's hard without one of those: death, divorce, loss of job, one of those types of things.
Because the banks don't want to, they just don't want to deal.
They are reading the hardship letters.
Right, and I think, again, like I talked about, there is a time and a place for certain government, whatever, subsidies, credits, whatever you want to call it. And this is one of those that I think is so minuscule compared to a few years ago. A few years ago, I would love to see the percentages, but I'm sure there are, billions of dollars in taxes saved from people doing these short sales when the forgiveness was in. Now, even if it's in place, it's going to be such a small percentage of that number to extend this to help out people that are probably really in need.
Right.
The people that are in true hardship, that fought it for as long as they could, that wrote it out. And but it is nice to see, though, that our market is recovering. Realty Track said this most recent week that Florida dropped to number 2 on the foreclosure list for states. But also the foreclosure inventory and short sale inventory is dramatically less than what it was a few years ago. And Robert, you obviously see it, from a couple different perspectives, but very few foreclosures and short sales hitting in the neighborhoods that we work in.
Very few. When I meet with sellers and we go over the comparables in the neighborhood, a lot of times I don't see any. And that used to be flip-flopped. It used to be mostly short sales.
And we'd have to argue why their home has to be priced at least closer to that, not necessarily at that number or below, but we have to consider them. And now that there's so few of them, it's great because you're getting neighborhoods back to stability again. They're not having such a major impact. And again, it's a much smaller piece of the market, to the point where now I think for the most part appraisers, because they have enough comparables, are doing their best to avoid using short sales and foreclosures, whenever possible. And as an investor, I look at, stuff too. And I remember I used to see, just gobs and gobs of foreclosures in good neighborhoods under 100 that you could buy and put money into and renovate and, resell or rent. And now that's dried up. There's very, very little of that out there. And I think that's a great sign for the stability of our market that, that prices have started to recover.